Hi, my name is Porky Hefer. I run a company called Vernacular Architecture and Design. That's what I believe in, and I believe that's the future of the world. It's a company of one. I come up with ideas myself, I make my own prototypes, and then I work with the best of class in that type of thing. So like with weaving, I work with the blind society. I work with blind people. With the splicing, I work with a very old family that's been in splicing and rope work for a very long time in Cape Town, centuries and centuries old. I make nests now. I used to be a product designer. I made lights and I made various things, but one of my products that I came up with in 2009 is the Humanest. It's a bigger conversation about temporary architecture versus permanent architecture. I think humans try to build these thrones, these statues to themselves, and they want it to remain for years and years and years. I think it's important that a building should only last as long as it's necessary. How long do we drive past a building and we go, what the hell is that? It's something that's lost its context, it's lost its relevance, and probably because it was on a trend. I try not to follow trends. I learned from Buckminster Fuller. If you follow a trend, you will fall off. So I try to establish trends. I try to form trends. And this is about natural architecture. Vernacular architecture, I think, is the future of the world, because what we've done with architecture, we've lost a sense of place. All architecture is the same across the world. In the old days, even say 20 years ago, you could go to a city and you would understand where you were. But now with the rise of globalization and star architects, people are copying, people are emulating, people are wanting to be European, and they're wanting to be the best. So people are copying that architecture that's in the bigger countries, done by the biggest architects. I believe that architecture has to give you a sense of place. Africa needs that. We had it in the old days when we were in our rural areas. You would understand even what part of Africa of South Africa you were in when you looked at the vernacular architecture. And I want to bring that back. I want to bring it back to the cities. I'm starting that by building a bigger nest in Namibia. It's a 4-bedroom nest, so it does get bigger, and it can get livable. This is the first open nest that I've ever done. I usually do closed roof nests, which is a total capsule where people go into. I made about 28 of those, and all of them woven. I weave in different materials. I weave in natural materials. I weave in kubu cane. I weave in the better side gets into Port Jackson, which is an alien tree that has come from Australia and destroys our waterways and stuff like that because it grows so rapidly and steals all the water. So I weave out of Port Jackson. So I have a double job where I'm taking out the Port Jackson from an area where it's affecting the ecology, and then I put it into something and then create a new use for that, even if it is a tree. But most Port Jacksons are cut and burnt, but I can turn that into an economy and turn it into a value. I've just got bigger and bigger with the nests. They started quite small, sort of one person and sort of an overnight for one person, but I realized the structure is so strong so that I can get bigger. In my nests are usually closed, and my wife was saying she feels a little bit claustrophobic. So I started making quite a few holes, but now I realized it was starting to lose its original form by having all these holes that she could look out of. So I realized that I don't have to only stick with one type of bird, because I was copying the weaver bird. I was walking out of my house going to my office one day, and this is a true story. This thing fell on my head and bounced onto the floor, and I looked down and I looked at it, and it was this nest. It was this beautiful little nest that had been more spun rather than woven. All my other ones are woven. It was more of a spun thing, and it was very open. It was a nest of the Cape White-eye. So that's what I looked at for this inspiration, which is when you look in and it's got that spiral. This is totally inspired by the work of the Cape White-eye bird, which is a tiny little bird like that. I think if he sat here, he would be very impressed at what he'd inspired. And I think that's the thing, that if something so little and so small and something that we don't look at, nests are something that are so important. I just want people to stop and look at nature. I want people to respect nature. That's why people say, is it strong enough? Is it robust enough? Can't people break it? Why would you want to break your own product? So what happens in this thing, it usually gets people to start respecting the natural form and and then you'll be quite surprised it doesn't get broken. It's made with cubic cane, which is the same as rattan. It's on a steel frame, which is just a broad structure which I can then get my shape. I use the cane as a very brittle product when you get it, but what I do is I soak it overnight, and then I come in the morning and I start weaving with it. It's an amazing feeling because the ritual starts when you put it in the water, but you cannot start working. You can only sit, and you get this amazing period of thinking about what you're going to do. Because you touch your material, you put it into the water, and then you have to leave it. And you sit there the whole night thinking about this thing in the water, and you just can't wait to get to work in the morning, to start working with it. And after a night, it's very much like clay. It's very malleable, and it's almost mushy. I say it's almost like a snake, where you can move it, and it feels almost soft. You leave it overnight, and then it's dried into that position. So the great thing about it, it's not under stress trying to come out. It's actually relaxed in that form, and it will stay there. So it's got a multiple strength. It's not trying to get out like a lot of materials that we use are at a pressure, under pressure to go into another direction. This is very happy where it is.